purpose is to see you leaders achieve standards of excellence in everything you do, and for those business owners, CEOs, helping you to scale up your organization. Now, today I'm joined by a very special, she's an author, and that's Helen Honisett, who's written the book Defy Expectations. I'll give you a little bit of a brief on this particular book, but what I want to really start off is to first of all tell you why you should be even listening to us in the first place. Here's the difference and differentiating factor. We are going to share insights. Helen's going to share a lot of insights here, but at the end of this session, we'll give you a couple of tools, for you to take away and, work. Because at the end of the day, you could get all the knowledge, this is on leadership. You'll get the knowledge, but knowledge without action is not going to add any traction. That's what I believe. And knowledge with action is where the momentum is. That is when you'll be able to climb up the mountain. So let me just give you a little bit of brief on Helen, and then I'll pass it over to her. So Helen's a seasoned and successful business leader with a rare blend of expertise in learning and advanced technology, which is so critical in this time. Her specialism is managing and growing businesses through change by leading sales organizations in a way that pivots the whole organization around the customer. Helen is the author of the book Defy Expectations, that looks at how leading with love, integrity, and trust can build and bond teams much more effectively than traditional methods. In fact, the methodology described in the book led to a 12% growth in sales and a 2% decrease in overall cost when last implemented. For all her career, she has studied how we learn as individuals and professionals from early years to adulthood. What motivates us to perform, to grow, and reach our potential? How do we engage as individuals and as team? Her passion for ensuring everyone achieves their potential is what drives her. She loves finding out what makes each person tick, and working within her is always a revelation, an aha moment, both personally and professional. Helen lives in Oxford, here in the United Kingdom, with her two sons, Sam and Josh. When not building tracks or visiting Cotswold Wildlife Park, Helen enjoys spending her time practicing yoga, running, and traveling. My dear friends, please welcome Helen. Helen, welcome to this live event. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Vijay. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today and to speak with you. It's been a fascinating journey getting to know you and watching you and understand the synergies that we both have in terms of our beliefs and our mission about how to support leaders as they come up through the organization.
Thank you, Helen. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's my pleasure. At Defy Expectations, we've got a fire in our belly about making sure that leadership is supported at all levels of the organization. And the work that you're doing, how you support businesses grow and deliver their value to their customers is critical.
Right. Thank you. And by the way, we have people from all over. I got somebody, Simba Benedict, Anand Kulkarni. All of you, please post your comments. I'm watching all your comments live here. Now, I'll start off this particular live event by first asking you, Helen. Helen, give us a little bit of a background about your journey. How did you really start? And what were a couple of turning points? And why defy expectation? We hear about exceed expectation. We hear about all these other sort of connotations. Why defy expectation? So I'm really curious, and I'm sure everybody's curious to learn more from you.
Thank you. So my aha moment was I was sitting in a training room being taught how to manage. And I was looking around the room and I was thinking to myself, everything that I'm hearing here, everything that I'm being taught doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit with who I am. And it's also not how I've got the results I've got over time. And so instead of sort of stepping back and traditionally doing what I might have done, which was say to myself, well, I must be wrong, I must follow what I'm being told, I started investigating others, people who thought similar to me. And I started on a journey of a combination of both self-discovery and discovery of others, as I realized that actually one of the best ways to build businesses successfully, and that means hitting both your soft and your hard objectives, is to care and love for the people around you. And as teams and as people, we are far more effective when we work and care together rather than just being individual numbers on a spreadsheet. Now, sort of, I can remember looking back, and there are times when I've not been the best leader I could be in my life. And I know that it's a constant journey. But I made a turning point that I was not going to focus anymore on the traditional styles of leadership, but really look at investigating how we can build more love, more integrity, more trust into everyday working life and every business we run and operate.
Wow, that's fascinating. Now, here's the thing. You talk about leadership with a complete different perspective, and going back to the core values. When you're talking about trust and when you're talking about love, these are the fundamental principles. And I think the variables will keep on changing, and I mean, it's a dynamic world. We know that everything keeps on changing every single day, and globally the changes are fast. But the successful leaders are the one who have that fundamental that foundation in place. Helen, my question to you, you have served many, I mean, I know you worked with some of the big brands as well. You're a leadership coach, and you've done quite a lot. What are 2 or 3 challenges that leaders face, not only during this pandemic period, but prior to the pandemic? What is that common pattern of 3 challenges you can pick on?
So I think the 3 challenges, the first one that I think leaders face is we're told that we sort of have to adopt a leadership role. We sort of have to leave who we are sort of at the front door as we walk into the office. And I think one of the challenges is, as leaders, we know we've got our flaws, we know we're not perfect, and it can become quite lonely as we feel as though we have to actually have all the answers and all the solutions. So I think the first challenge is to understand that, first challenge to overcome is that we are our best when we are who we are. And therefore the vulnerability of the leader not knowing everything, can actually be an incredibly powerful tool. So I think the first challenge many leaders face today is, they're expected to play a role, and that role isn't who they are. And overcoming that can be a challenge, and for some, it's not a challenge they're willing to accept. I think the second challenge we've got, and we've seen this even more, and I think this is going to become really stark as we move back to sort of hybrid. Are we working from home? Are we going to the office? What does that look like in the future? Is uniting people as teams. Most leaders actually run groups of individuals. They don't run teams. Teams are people who trust and care for each other and are united behind common goals. So I think the second challenge leaders face nowadays is really looking at how to unite people together, building on each other's strengths and coming together as one unit to drive towards the business objectives that they're trying to achieve. The third challenge, I think, and I don't think this is just for leaders, I think it's for all of us, is how do we maintain the balance? Now, my wonderful colleague, Pat Chapman-Pincher, rants on quite often about there is no work-life balance, there is just life, and work is part of that. And whilst that is incredibly true, I think for leaders, especially those who care for their people, it can become an all-consuming role. And so learning how to balance when to step forward and when to step back, how to find time for yourself and make yourself a priority, and letting go of any guilt that may come around that, and ensuring you're making priorities across all aspects of your life. So I think the three challenges I see leaders facing a lot is the fact that being authentic and actually truly who you are is tough. How to unite teams effectively as groups of units working towards a common goal. And then the third one is finding that balance so you can look after yourself as well as look after all of those people around you.
Absolutely brilliant, Helen. I just want to share a couple of, I'll just extend from my little experience and, having coached and consulted just like you, and some of the common patterns I mean, what you've just mentioned, the three challenges resonate completely. But, just to add, another key challenge, and again, this is different from a different perspective altogether, is, having this doubt. I've noted that many leaders have a lot of doubt, and, the risks which they are supposed to take. That decision, the impact from the decisions they make, sometimes sort of really don't align with the vision they have. So I'll just give you just a practical example here. Is that in one particular organization there was an investment to be made, and there was a particular software they needed. But here's the thing: is that with the software they needed a particular personnel as well. And they really had a doubt that what if this goes wrong? Now, they had the facts. They had about 60-70% of the facts were there. And obviously, you and I know that we have to go, 20-30%. We have to go with our gut as well at a certain time. That's what this whole, we don't know what the future is going to unfold. And the thing is that the decision, then the agenda item keeps on spilling over, and they don't make that decision. And when I coached this one particular leader, I wanted to find out the root reason as to why that really happened. And he finally confided that he had burnt his fingers in the past, but he was living in the past. And this is a key problem. I'm not saying it's with all the leaders, but this is another key problem that I have realized. I'm not saying that you don't need to do your due diligence and make sure that you've got all the checks and balances and criteria in place, non-negotiable criteria as well. But this is another key challenge. I don't know if you've come across such a situation, Helen.
I think doubt is something we all deal with. We're human. And I think people who don't doubt themselves aren't necessarily looking to learn and improve. Now, that may seem like a sweeping statement, and it sort of is, but if we're constantly trying to improve ourselves and develop ourselves, then we do second guess ourselves every so often. It's starting to learn when that doubt and that voice creeps in, and giving yourself the time to realize that it will creep in. And the more you notice it, the faster you will notice it. And then give yourself the time just to question it. Because when we first start listening to our gut and our doubt can seem quite similar. They sound pretty much the same sometimes. And it's only by listening and by really sensing whether we're actually following our gut and actually we're making an instinctual decision, which we know we can back up with the data and our conviction afterwards, or whether we're doubting ourselves based on those past experiences. A lot of what I talk to my clients and customers about is about taking time to step back and think a little bit more, be a bit more intentional and deliberate about how we communicate, what decisions we make. And the biggest pushback I usually get is, leaders, we need to be decisive, we need to be fast, we need to be quick. And I go, it's always faster to take time and make the right decision and question yourself up front than it is to rescue a situation or amend a mistake afterwards. One of the problems I think a leader faces nowadays is we're all looked at and expected to know the answers instantaneously and to do things quickly. Speed isn't always the answer. It doesn't take long to find yourself 10 minutes to step back and think, but that can save you a lot of time in the future. So I think doubt is something that can plague us all. It's how much power we give to it, or how often we say, yep, I hear you, but today I'm actually going to ignore you because I know my gut is right.
Interesting. Yes, and this just extends to that third challenge that you mentioned as well. So I fully understand, and someone said that fortune favors the bold, and normally there's no secret to success, but there's a sort of a system to success, as we put it. So I fully get it. Helen, just switching gears, if you were to advise or give a couple of sort of not tools, but what would you advise anybody who might be facing the challenges we have spoken about? I mean, how can they really overcome? What are a couple of things they can do to sort of turn the corner and shift into that right sort of mindset? Is there a couple of things that you can share?
Absolutely. So I think shifting mindset is a choice. It's a decision we make. We spend a lot of time feeling as though we should do things, or things are being done to us. That's our choice. We can choose to decide that, or we can choose to be who we want to be. So I think first off, realizing that actually how you live is a choice. And if anybody questions that, then I'd really ask them to go and read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, because if anyone can go through what he went through and still realize that the attitude in which you face any situation is your choice, then I don't know how you can live through life without sort of realizing that your mindset is your own power. One of the other things that I always talk to my leaders about is really understanding both their intention and their impact. Now, this is a communication tool that I use a lot with my leaders, and it's critical for making sure that they are delivering their message in a way they want to be heard. A lot of the challenges they face, whether it's being authentic, whether it's actually finding balance, is because in those times of stress, we react in a way that we don't necessarily intend to, or we react in a way where our intentions are good, but our impact that is felt by others isn't the way we intended. And so I always ask and coach my leaders just to step back, and when they're building their messages up, when they're starting to think about how they communicate, what's their intention? And then I ask them just to step into the person's shoes who's hearing this message and think through what the impact might be of those words. And again, this is not something where you necessarily need to carve out time in your day. You can do it, in the shower or on the drive back from school, having dropped your kids off. But it's just starting to take that extra step about how you want people to feel after they've engaged with you. Because as a leader, our impact isn't so much on what we do. It's actually how we make the people around us feel.
Absolutely. I think that's very well articulated, Helen, because it's so important, the impact that you make. And I think the way you've described it really sort of aligns with the particular message. And Helen, just moving one step further, as we go into this second phase of 2021, is there a couple of things leaders need to really focus on, or is this something they need to really be looking out for or pay more attention as we move to this second phase of 2021? In your, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So, sort of, I come from a background of sales, so I'm all about the target and the number. And actually, I think what people and leaders really need to be focusing on right now at the moment is their value. What value do they personally bring to their people, to their customers, to their market, and to the overall world? If you can't find your value or the value of your product, I think you need to start questioning it. There will always be people around us who can help us find our value, but we need to look at rebuilding and regrowing. And yes, that means hitting numbers. It means driving profit. It means getting those business metrics there. But those are worth nothing if we're not delivering value at the same time. So I'm asking all leaders to really step back and think about what's the value you bring? What's the value your team brings? And what value do you bring to your customers and those people you service with your products and solutions?
Excellent. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. I mean, that really goes very well, because the layer of value that you add is mainly dependent on, I mean, this is just the way I see it, is that, when you ask those right questions, because knowledge is getting the right answers, intelligence is asking the right questions. So if you want to step up your game, and what is innovation? Innovation is that improvement, whether it's the process itself or whatever you're doing in whatever position you are. It's about evolving, it's about stretching your capability, it's about stretching your mindset as well, and moving to that next level. How can you really move to that particular next level? And Helen, just like what you're mentioning, it's about the value that you are adding, the multiplier value that you add, because that is what the whole, from the whole, whatever we look at from the global perspective itself, that is what we are supposed to do in order for us to achieve excellence. And another thing, Helen, which you really picked up, is about having that pure collective intentions. Clarity in the mindset is where the power is, and that is where the impact is. And once you have that clarity in place, you will see the ignition, the impact it's going to really make. And that pure intention, even at the top, the board level itself, and sadly I've seen a lot of flaws there, is that having that pure, clear intention without any conflict, without any impurities. Yes, you can ask those questions. Yes, if there are those assumptions or any questions that you have, you can ask those questions just to clarify. But that purity in intention is going to lead you to that particular uh, growth, whatever you're looking for, and taking you to the next level. Helen, last few words. I mean, we are already 22 minutes. Wow, we were supposed to keep this 20 minutes, but Helen, just your last summary, the wrap up. What would you like to say to the viewers before we end this particular event?
Well, you asked me earlier on why defy expectations and not exceed expectations, and I didn't actually answer. The reason I went for defy expectations is because I've spent my career in corporate sales, and with that comes a number of expectations, and exceeding them is just hitting above target a lot of the time. I wanted it to be a little bit more. I wanted it to be an experience. And when you work with us at Defy Expectations, we look to not just exceed your expectations, but to blow them out of the water and to bring you the value that you weren't expecting. And quite often, as to your point, ask you the questions that you didn't know you needed to ask. Thank you so much for today, Vijay. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Helen. So, such inspiring words that you've said. And for the viewers, I press upon you to consider taking this. Grab your copy. It's called Defy Expectations. Learn to lead with love, integrity, and trust. I can promise you this can be game-changing for you, life-changing. I'm going to put a link in the comment box as well. And I believe that this is a book that you need to read a couple of times, because it has some really very, very many valuable nuggets. And I'm sure that you'll find that it will help you as you move forward in your journey. I wish you all the very best, all of you. Thank you very much for taking up the time to listen to to Helen and me. And I look forward to seeing you in the next live event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.